Now to continue our series Crowded Capital, looking at the pressure being placed upon London as a result of our record population, which hit 8.6 million this week. Tonight we focus upon homes. As London grows, how will we all live and fit in a city which is becoming busier and busier? Well, Victoria Hollins has been examining some of the options.
Climb up above London's streets and only then do you get an idea of the world being built above our heads.
As you can see below us, we have the Aldgate Place development. There we have Altitude, and we have Goodman's Fields, which is Berkeley Home scheme.
On top of the Aldgate Tower, the regeneration and rebuilding is clear, where some of the 49,000 homes a year that London needs are being built.
It used to be that the commercial towers were the only towers that were granted permission. Nowadays it's a residential or a mixed-use tower that seems to be in favour, and particularly because of the housing crisis we have, therefore the swing towards residential, particularly in city centre locations.
During the last population boom of 1939, the tallest building in London was St Paul's. Today it's dwarfed on almost all sides. 237 tower blocks are planned for London, the vast majority residential. And they're needed because fitting people in is a growing challenge.
You see it reflected back in just how unaffordable a place London is becoming to live, and therefore we really do need to have all options on the table. That means brownfield, it means densification, but it also means thinking about the green belt again as well.
After the war, London dealt with housing pressure with tower blocks of a different sort, dotted around the capital in the 50s and 60s.
The first of Britain's skyscrapers.
But the tide turned in 1968 when 22-storey Ronan Point in Canning Town collapsed, killing 5 people.
Residents in 25,000 other prefabricated skyscraper flats immediately felt they were living in danger.
These days, high-rise living looks very different. The 32nd floor of the Lexicon building on City Road. With this block and another along the road, 600 homes will be created, 30% of them affordable.
Now people work in the city itself, it's high-rise, they're used to being on the 30th floor of a building, so therefore that's not unusual to come home to the 30th floor of the building. It's completely aspirational to live in a tall glass building.
But many of them can't afford it, and that's where social housing providers like Peabody come in. They're changing the way they build. At this site in Clapham, there were 300 homes. Once the estate is rebuilt, there'll be more than 500 in the same space.
Well, we have to use space which is at a premium to the best effect. And what's really changed for us in recent years is to create a real mixed, both design and community. And importantly, a mix of tenures too. So we will have private ownership alongside shared ownership, alongside affordable.
But even if developers can get their hands on enough land, labour and cash, there's still the issue of how crowded Londoners are prepared to see their city get.
We're a very low density city. Density doesn't always mean that it's going to be too busy, bustly. It means vitality, energy, lots of amenities. Density has plenty of benefits, as anyone living in New York would know.
Whether we start to build differently, whether we build out or up, the decisions made today are going to have implications for generations to come and could ultimately determine whether London becomes a victim of its own success. Victoria Hollins, BBC London News.
Well, with me now is Anna Scott Marshall from the Royal Institute of British Architects. Thank you for joining us. Is that the answer then? Upwards?
I think tall towers can be part of the solution, but I guess it's really changing the shape of London, and I guess we need to be happy about the quality of those towers and also just whether they're fit for Londoners and fit for people living in them. So there's about 200 towers planned at the moment in London, with 150 being residential, so that's quite significant.
That is quite significant. Do you think that's what people want? Is that what Londoners want to do, live up in a high-rise?
When we've asked people what they want from a home, they say the top 3 things are location, and so that's about where it is, but access to transport and local public services. The second thing is sufficient inside space, so it's important that the inside of the home is right, and private outdoor space, which often factors out a lot of towers. I guess the other thing is that clearly the kind of home that we like to live in differs depending on our age and depending on our family, and so I think that often we're building a sort of a single type of home really, and that probably isn't accommodating Londoners across the board.
But it doesn't seem there's much option There's a limited amount of space. There are more and more people who are after that small amount of space. So it seems like the only option is to go up. Is it kind of Hobson's choice? We've got no choice.
I mean, I think definitely some towers work. I think that if they're going to work, then we need to really be thinking about not only what do they look like in terms of, you know, their appearance on the landscape, but also do they have community facilities? How do they interact with the ground? But there's also other options, and I think that you know, to build densely doesn't necessarily mean towers. Also, we're not really building homes which are suitable. For example, if you're 50 and over and you might consider downsizing, the kinds of homes we're building are actually suitable for first-time buyers and not for people who need a bit of storage.
Well, it's certainly an ongoing problem. Anna Scott-Marshall, thank you very much for joining us. Well, for more information on our series Crowded Capital, take a look at our website, where there's an in-depth and very interesting look at London's growing population with facts and figures as well. Now, an estimated 17 cars a day, that's 6,000